Hello, and thanks for tuning into the show that goes around the continent to bring you stories near and far. I'm Joke Rogers at Channels Television here in Lagos, and I'm joined by Vincent McCory from the Voice of America in Washington.
Thanks. I'm Vincent McCory at the Voice of America. Happy to be with you again for another edition of Africa 54. Let's start off with the latest from Nigeria. Joke Rogers in Lagos brings you that story.
On Tuesday, June 13, Nigeria's upper chamber witnessed a mild drama before the election that eventually resulted in the emergence of Senator Godswill Akpabio as the president of the Senate. Following the nomination of Senator Akpabio and former governor of Zamfara State, Senator Abdulaziz Yari, there was a shouting match between members who argued that Senator Yari is not a ranking member of the Red Chamber. When the dust eventually settled and the election was concluded, Senator Akpabio emerged victorious, scoring 63 votes to Senator Yari's 46, while the senator representing Kano North, Jibrin Barau, was declared Deputy Senate President unopposed. Our correspondent, Victor Matthias, reports.
The 10th Senate is about to witness a change of guard as senators-elect gather for their inauguration as members of the upper legislative chamber and election of the one who would be referred to as the first among equals. An event billed to start 10 a.m. commenced a few minutes past 8, with some lawmakers already in the building as early as 4 a.m. with no reason given for the sudden change of time.
I now call the clerk Senate to make the roll call.
Without a substantive president, the clerk of the National Assembly commences proceedings. First, a roll call of senators-elect present, and then a call for nominations of candidates for the position of the Senate president. However, the nomination of Senator Abdulaziz Yari draws this reaction. This reaction is drawn as they claim that Senator Yari is not a ranking member of the Red Chamber. However, the clerk waves their protest aside and calls for voting.
We'll start with Abia State.
The senators-elect are then called on a state-by-state basis to cast their vote.
Abubakar Abdulaziz Yari, Ibrahim Lamido.
Followed by sorting, then counting, and declaration of result. Midway into counting, supporters of Senator Akpabio went into a frenzy, with some trooping to his seat to congratulate him. The results were eventually announced by the clerk of the National Assembly.
Total number of votes cast 109. Absent nil. Abstain nil. Abdulaziz Yari scored 46 votes. Godswill Akpabio scored 63 votes. Therefore, Senator-elect Godswill Akpabio, who has received the highest number of votes, is hereby declared and returned President of the Senate.
Official results announced, congratulations begin to pour in from his supporters and even from his main contender, Senator Abdulaziz Yari. A swearing-in ceremony followed.
That I will preserve, protect,
and defend the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
And defend the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
And attention was turned to the position of the Deputy Senate President, where Senator Jibrin Barau from Kano North was returned unopposed.
To the best of my ability, faithfully, in accordance with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
In accordance with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The Senate President gives his inaugural speech where he gave assurances to be a president for all and promised to work hand in hand with the executives for the betterment of the country.
I want to assure Mr. President that no matter what name the Senate is called, we are here to do national duties. This Senate is about Nigeria and Nigerians. And so long as the policies that come to these chambers concern the empowerment and upliftment of Nigerians, we shall dwell and deliberate and then have robust debate on them with public hearings. We will work closely with the executive arm of government whilst maintaining the normal independence of the legislature.
Other members were also sworn in as senators and members of the 10th Assembly, with the plenary adjourned to June the 14th, 2023. Victor Matthias, Channels Television News.
The ayes have it.
For further discussion on this topic, we're joined by Mr. Emmanuel Ayagbulam, Director, African Center for Parliamentary and Constitutional Studies. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
So how would you describe the significance of the new Senate leadership in Nigeria and its potential impact on the lives of the citizens?
Well, thank you so much. The issue, anyway, I will more or less tinker with the intro, because the Senate and the House of Representatives forms the National Assembly. So the new National Assembly, that is the institution conferred with power to make laws for the peace, order, and good governance of the entire Nigerian Federation, is now inaugurated. The members of that institution have taken the oath of office to protect, defend, and preserve the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and have asked God Almighty to help them to do that, the leadership and the members. So in that context, there is, anyway, probably, because after the election, a renewal of hope. And in that context, one will say, Nigerians are already tasked. The issue on ground has to do with the price of petroleum products. We have laws of the land on who the regulator is. All of a sudden, we woke up to NMPC, that is a marketer, now fixing price, and the price of more than almost 300 increase in price of a product that affects every life. So from 2012 till now, we are on the same subject matter. And the subject matter has now degenerated, choking our very lives out of us. So these are the issues which we expect that the new National Assembly will now come to the bearing, to the reality, and then live up to expectation of the oath of office to defend, protect, and preserve the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, amongst other things. So this is my take on this.
So yes, you've highlighted a whole load of things, and you've, of course, pointed out the universities system, and of course you talked about the oil and gas sector as well, and the subsidy regime. So these are just, two things. There are so many other things that lawmakers need to take a look at when they do eventually begin work in earnest. So what are the other key areas, what other priorities you expect the National Assembly members to look at?
Like I said, the realities on ground, they are to make laws for the peace, order, and good governance. So it makes security, like the scripture will say, that we pray for men and authority, that we should have a peaceful life and godliness. In the context that we are now sleeping in most parts of the country, we are sleeping with one of our eyes because the security issue has gone out of hands. In the health issues, basically the health sector has equally virtually collapsed. We see even our leaders now go overseas for their own personal treatment. Then for the rest of us who cannot afford it, we either go to church or you die. Then there are, apart from the education, the last count of universities, we registered 37 universities. Our universities of technology, when you go to them, they produce 80% of social sciences and arts. And like I said, on general terms, we are living on hard terms, where now we will rely on basic engagement through the laws and proactivity by oversight. We have talked of the ICPC, EFCC, on the issue of corruption. But I am still of the view, if you take a good look at our national budget for the last 8 years, you will see that we are having increased and frightening level of deficits. Therefore, you cannot go into any reasonable capital projects. And we are borrowing to the extent of repaying loans with almost 70% of our budget. So these are the issues where we expect that the budget is the annual plan that affects every gamut of our life. And if it is left in this precarious state, then there will be a problem which will continue and has continued and has now reached frightening dimension. So on the entire issue, agriculture is equally a challenging factor because we are on a regime of, you've seen the flood coming because of what? Climate change. Those within the shores, we face the flood. Then after that, we have extreme weather where herdsmen and farmers will clash in 21st century because we have not been able to do what? To institutionally empower the agencies through research and funding of research that most of these noise making we are into. So these are the areas that, like I said, virtually every sector has had what? Has been drawn back by the realities on ground. And we need laws that will help us in doing that. Not only from the National Assembly, we have also done what? We have inaugurated the state assemblies, who will go through their regimes, and then the local governments especially, where we have a problem that the state governors more or less have cornered and emasculated the local governments, especially their funds. Yeah. We cannot do anything about it because we've seen even the former President Buhari issuing what? Executive order, where we have constitutional laid-down issues, and everybody has kept quiet, including the local government chairman and then the constituents, who are the Nigerian people, the citizens, who are equally latent and now have agreed, or more or less seem hopeless, that 20% of the subvention made for local governments, which is the grassroots government, has been converted by the state governors, and you see them keep quiet. So these are the areas where we feel that, look, like I said, transparency, accountability, consultation, and rule of law are the hallmark of good governance, because unless you reach that level and be able to drive the people around, because they are the word, the sovereignty lies with the people, who are the electorate, who now send their representatives, both the executive, to implement and manage our affairs, and then the lawmakers, whom we have also voted in as our representatives to do the needful. So that's the issue. It borders on every aspect of our lives.
Thank you. I must thank you for your time today, Mr. Ayegbulam, the Director, Africa and the Center for Parliamentary and Constitutional Studies. Thank you for your time today on Africa 54.
Thank you so much.
U.S. aid group The Gift of Chess has set up a workshop in Ghana, producing chess pieces for women empowerment and youth development. The group is using chess to create jobs and strengthen communities through the game. Nyeka Chile reports from Accra, Ghana.
Evelyn Upeta earns about $100 per month making chess pieces at a workshop in Ghana's capital using 3D modeling and a printing machine. The workshop, funded by the New York-based aid group The Gift of Chess and operated by local group Clean Afrique 64, hires and trains young women like Upeta.
Chess has really helped me. At first, I don't know how to type. Now I'm learning how to type. And at first, I don't know how to use a 3D printer. Now I know how to use it. And now I can produce a chess piece. And I'm very sure this will help me in the near future.
The popularity of the strategic thinking game as a tool for community development is growing in Africa. The Gift of Chess sponsors tournaments and has donated 1,000 chess sets to underprivileged youth programs in Ghana, Kenya, and Uganda, and more than 2,500 to Nigeria. Since starting local production this year in Ghana, the team has sent more than 50 chess sets to schools and youth centers and taught scores of young women how to play.
I think this particular program is going to go a long way to support the girls to think outside the box. And as you know, chess is a thinking game. So as they engage in chess, they're able to, widen their scope, their thinking scope. And I think it's going to have a long way, a great impact, on their upbringing and then their social background.
The workshop also teaches young women computer skills and programming for production.
We owe it as part of our corporate social responsibility to develop the communities we find ourselves in. And in every community that we go to, we will be concerned about the well-being of the people we train. Some of the people live in very difficult circumstances. So we just don't teach them how to play chess. We teach them a lot of other life skills to help them build their confidence, prepare them for life.
As the popularity of chess grows, the aid group hopes to get enough support to expand production in coming months. Neka Chile for VOA News, Accra, Ghana.
10 years ago, Native American photographer Mitika Wilbur embarked on a road trip with an ambitious goal to document all 562 federally recognized indigenous tribes. Our multi-year work culminated in a book aiming to change the way people see Native Americans. She launched a book tour in her home state of Washington. VOA's Natasha Moscovaya has more from Seattle.
Drums, dance, a young girl fully taking part in signing her mom's books. It was anything but a common new book launch at Elliott Bay Book Company store in Seattle. For Mitika Wilbur, a photographer of Swinomish and Tulalip tribes background, it was an emotional milestone, celebrating 10 years of documenting hundreds of indigenous tribes to more accurately portray Native people in North America.
I don't know how to describe how overwhelming that feels to get to see a need in community and then participate in fulfilling that need. And it feels like a great responsibility and a great joy and an honor and a privilege.
It all began with an attempt to find relevant visual material regarding indigenous tribes for her students.
In 2012, I was a teacher at the tribal school in Marquez in Tulalip. And while I was teaching, the elders in my community, they came to me and they said, Mitika, will you put together a curriculum that represents our people? And I found a lot of books written about Native by white people.
Her ambitious idea to document all 562 federally recognized tribes became a road trip in an RV, funded through donations.
The most profound thing that happened is I fell in love with my people so intimately and found a deep and profound appreciation for our traditional culture and our contemporary culture.
Wilbur says she felt it was crucial to let each of the 1,200 people she met choose the way they wanted to be portrayed and approve of their stories. The hardest part was to decide what to leave out of the book.
Oh, I photographed several people in each tribe, and then the editing process was, yes, very painful. We certainly made decisions based off of, not too much overlapping information and not too many overlapping tribes. And some tribes have more representation, and I also just really approached it very loosely and spiritually. I just allowed it to develop as it did.
The number of federally recognized tribes has since grown to 574, and the book features state-recognized tribes, as well as urban natives. Nahan, a native dance group leader, is one of those featured in the book.
It's real exciting. There was no opportunity for us to read books written by our own people. So a lot of it was just held by story. So that was always important, to sit around the campfire and talk story and hear that wisdom. And, it's like we have to create our own realities and our own dimensions through our stories.
As she embarks on a nationwide book tour, Wilbur hopes her book will help eliminate outdated stereotypes and inspire other Native artists to lead the change. Natasha Moscovaya, VOA News, Seattle, Washington.
It's time for a short break. As we do, remind you to visit our website, channelstv.com, for news and programming around the clock. You can also find us at youtube.com/channelsweb. And still to come, in Ethiopia, indigenous artists create projects to push governments to allocate more funding for the arts sector. Details in a moment. In a bid to promote African art, culture and heritage, some indigenous artists have come together to launch a 5-year project. This launch aims to push the various governments on the continent to allocate more funds for the industry. Take a listen.
On a small stage decorated with bright lights in the Addis Ababa region, artists from African countries play music pieces of their respective countries as partygoers danced, mingled and enjoy wines to celebrate the launch of 5 years of project. The project is called Connect for Culture Africa, CFCA, and is launched by the African Union in collaboration with Selam Ethiopia, a non-governmental organization that uses film, music and circus performances to address issues such as women's rights. The project aims to push African governments to allocate at least 1% of their budgets to the arts.
Want to empower artists. A lot of artists, they want to participate in these discussions about good governance, human rights, but they are scared of the consequences. But if they are united, then they will not be scared to talk about these issues. They will not be scared about making music to educate the community or talk against corruption and other ills of the society.
Held on Africa Day, the concert hosted artists and bands from Ghana, Ethiopia and Tanzania. Stakeholders hope that a good budget to the arts and culture will help artists to be better educated. Hundreds of revelers from Ethiopia and other African countries attended the concert, with music performances featuring saxophones, guitars, drums and traditional Ethiopian music instruments, enjoying the heartbeat music and a sip of wine.
Well, and that's our show for today. You can find all the continent's top news and world news online at voaafrica.com. Check it out. I'm Vincent McCory in Washington. Channels Television has our last word.
We look forward to bringing you another show next week. Do remember that channelstv.com is your source for news and other programming. I'm Joker Rogers. Thanks for watching and goodbye.